Welcome to another episode of Game Changers for Government Contractors. I am your host, Michael LeJeune, and today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite topics, and that is setting boundaries around your time so that you can grow your business. Before I get into that, let me welcome everybody who is a first-time listener to the podcast. I really appreciate you being here. I think you're going to get a lot out of this podcast. I don't always talk about topics like this. It's usually something in sales or marketing around government contracting, or maybe it's business development or something else. Proposal writing, marketing, something. But I think there are some essential topics like this that we need to cover. And these are the things that have helped our clients win $14.5 billion in government contracts. If you are not familiar with RSM Federal and what we do, we help companies just like yours navigate this market and just grow. We've got clients that have been with us for a decade or plus, that have grown their companies into the hundreds of millions of dollars. We've worked with big $1 billion dollar companies and everything in between, startups, you name it. And so I want to give you some of the insights that we have shared with those companies that are super successful. And this is one of them today. This is more on the executive coaching style of stuff that I'm going to be talking today, but it's super, super important. So why do boundaries matter so much in your business? Well, time is your most valuable asset. A lot of you have probably heard that, but how you manage your time is what determines your success. And without boundaries, distractions and low value tasks, things that suck energy from you, those things come into play more. So that's why, when you don't have boundaries, you let a lot of things into your life and into your business that you shouldn't. And successful business owners understand that you have to protect your time like you protect your revenue, like you protect your newborn baby, like you protect your entire life, right? You've got to protect your time at all costs. That doesn't mean you can't goof off. I like to goof off, but if you are not getting the essential things done, you're not going to grow the business. The cost of not setting a boundary is often having endless availability, and that's going to turn into stalled growth. If you have endless availability, you are making a big mistake, because you may say, well, I just got everything open on my calendar and anybody can book anytime because that's what made me successful, because people just drop stuff on my calendar. I never have that problem. I will often have anywhere from 15 to 30 meetings in a week that are booked onto my calendar by other people. And it's rare for someone to reach out and say, hey, I couldn't find anything on your calendar. And I only meet with people on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And I've got stuff blocked out on Wednesday. I've got some things blocked out on Tuesday. I've got some stuff blocked out on Thursday. And people still find ways to get on my calendar. And so if somebody has a problem with it, they will make a request. Block out your time. Block it out and be relentless about it. Another thing that happens, and it's a cost of not setting a boundary, is burnout and decision fatigue. It's very easy to just churn and churn and churn till you eventually burn in this business. I've got a friend of mine, or an old friend of mine, who for years, as I knew this guy, he would go into these deep work states where he was working till 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and doing it again, and just burning. He was like, man, I'm 2 weeks from this major breakthrough. And usually I was like, well, you're 2 weeks from burnout. And it would happen all the time. He's 2, 3 weeks into this cycle, and then he'd just fall off the map. He wouldn't return a phone call, a text, nothing. And it was just a cycle he was in of just constant burnout. And then you get into the decision fatigue where you can't even make the simplest decisions because your brain is so drained that you're looking at stuff that should be a simple decision and you're just in this paralyzed state. And that's not good either. Which all of that leads to a lack of strategic focus. Your day becomes more reactive instead of proactive, and you're not moving the business forward because you're in a situation where you're kind of like your back is up against the wall and it's like having kickballs shot at you all day long, right? You're just having things kicked in your face all day long, and you're trying to deal with those things. And so when you're in that reactive mode like that, you can't focus and say, okay, here's how I get out. Here's how I grow, because there's just too much on your plate. And so you need to look at a mindset shift that takes your mind from no boundaries to boundaries and is unapologetic about it. I was on a call. Actually, there was one yesterday, there was one the day before, there was 2 or 3 last week, where I have these calls set up for people that want to do a one-on-one with me because they're interested in government contracting and they're thinking about coaching. So, by the way, that's a quick plug for that. If you are thinking about getting in the government contracting space and you might need coaching from us, there's a link all over my profile where you can go and schedule an appointment with me and talk about that. Those appointments are 25 minutes. They're not 30, they're 25 because I need a break in between the next session, if I need to return calls or emails, go to the bathroom, whatever it is, right? Get a snack, that kind of thing. And the last 4 or 5 of them, we've gotten to the 25-minute mark, and the person has said, do you have time for 1 or 2 more questions? And my answer was no. I didn't say, I'm sorry, but no. I said, no, not right now. I've got to go into another call. If you need to book another one, or if you want to just email me those questions, I'd be happy to answer it. I didn't apologize, and I kept my boundary. I was not going to make myself late for the next call. I wasn't going to do that. And a couple of times it's like I had something going on, like I had to leave for something. I had an appointment at the VA, and I was like, nope, got to leave. Don't have that extra 5 minutes. And I'm going to be in the car, and I want to be focused on driving and not talking to you. Not to be rude. Yeah. But, I didn't have to say to this. I was unapologetic about the fact that my time is valuable, and you need to be that way too. So you need to treat your time as an investment, where every time you spend one of those minutes or invest one of those minutes, you get a return on it some way, shape, or form. High performers prioritize their deep work and the time commitments they make so they can eliminate distractions and do the things that are important instead of the things that are just on their plate or a to-do list. I don't even have a to-do list. There's no stickies on my desk or any of that type of stuff. Things go on my calendar. They block out time, not just wind up distracting me by having all these stickies on my desk or anything like that. I don't do that. High performers say no to non-essential stuff all the time. If it's not important, I will often say no to it. I just don't have time. I can't tell you how often people say, especially in this AI-driven age, someone will reach out and say, hey, can you review our new AI tool? We'd love your feedback. We're trying to do this better in the market. No, sorry. Don't have time for that. We're doing other things. No, actually, I don't say sorry. I just, nope. Don't have time for that. Check back with me in 6 months, or better yet, don't. I don't say that. But I'm definitely thinking a lot of times, because everybody thinks they've got the latest, greatest bread slicer. And look, I appreciate the fact that people are excited about their thing, but I'm trying to grow a company, and I don't have time, unless you're a client, to just go and review things willy-nilly all the time. I just don't have time for that. And you need to be that same way too. You're just not taking meetings for the sake of taking meetings or being nice. You don't have to do that. So let's talk some practical steps on how to set and enforce some boundaries. The first one on here is define your non-negotiable work blocks, and then schedule time in your calendar for that. I have been running my calendar like that and my life like that, my to-do list like that for years now. And it's hands down the most productive thing in my life, where I know there's work I want to do. I will look on my calendar, find a spot, drop it in there. And that's when I'm going to do the thing. Now, I also know that I may get to 3:00 on a Thursday and not feel like doing the thing. I'll move it to another day, but I don't delete the task. I don't just leave the sticky note on my thing. Like, I have a time set to do it. So using your calendar for that deep work, the important work, the thing that's going to make you money, having time blocked out for that, to me, is crucial. So think about proposal writing, BD, strategy, networking, all those things that you need to be doing need to be blocked somewhere. And you need to protect those blocks like they're your newborn child. There's no meetings. You're not doing emails. You're not looking at other distractions. You're not doing any of that stuff. You're doing those things and you get them done. And look, I block out what I think is plenty of time to do the task. So let's say I'm doing some outreach for something. I may block out an hour. If I'm done in 30 minutes, I will drag another task from either another day or later in the day. I'll drag it up and I'll start that task. That's how I kind of manage that. It's a really, really easy way to do it. The next thing is control your communication. You need to set clear expectations with clients, employees, partners, everybody about how you communicate. Do you like texting? Do you not like texting? Will you use LinkedIn? Will you not use LinkedIn? Do you want to be communicated with email? Do you want it controlled through a third party like an assistant or something like that? Do you check your email twice a day? Do you check it all the time? Do you check it 24/7, which I don't recommend? But set expectations on how you want to be communicated with. Um, I won't give out my phone number on the podcast because people will call it, but people that have my email have it. It's on our website in different places. But if you call my phone right now and I don't answer it, the first thing my voicemail is going to tell you is not to leave me a voicemail. It'd be better off for you to send me a message on LinkedIn or send me an email. I'll get that way faster. Because if I got to sit and listen to the voicemail, because it doesn't transcribe all the voicemails, my phone transcribes most, but not all. If I got to sit and do that, I may listen to it 2-3 hours from now, 4 hours from now. But if I can read it, like in my email or somewhere else, I can read it while I'm doing something else and I can respond way faster. Because I actually do juggle multiple things fairly well. Not perfect, but fairly well. And so I set clear expectations in my message. Don't leave me a voice message. Go send me an email. And I want people to respect that. I also eliminate unnecessary meetings all the time. I can't tell you how often these days I'm asked for a meeting, and depending on who it is and why it's for, I will just cancel it on my calendar and say, hey, instead of meeting with me, you need to meet with one of my coaches. And here's the coach you need to meet with and why. Instead of meeting with me, you need to meet with my partner, Josh. Here's why. Josh will set meetings sometimes and add me to it. And I'll say, do you need me? Or at least I used to say that. He now often says, hey, I added you to this in case you're free, but don't worry about coming. I know you're busy. Things like that. Like, great. I don't need to come to that. I don't need to listen to a status update on this. I'd rather see it in an email. And then if I have questions, I can follow up, but we can save time by having better communication prior to jumping on a call. And then maybe our call's only 15 minutes instead of 30 minutes or an hour. And that's another thing when it comes to meetings and stuff. If somebody wants an hour of my time, first thing I do is delete it. I'm like, nope, I'll give you 20 minutes, 30 minutes. You're not getting an hour of my time to do an intro call. Not happening. In fact, if you try to book an intro call with me, it's usually 15 minutes. I'm like, it's an intro call. Why do we need to talk for 30 minutes to an hour? You tell me a little about who you are and what you do. I'll tell you a little bit about who I am, what I do. And if it makes sense for us to have another call, then we can have another call. But I don't need to just talk to you for 30 minutes about your golf game or, your grandkids or whatever. Like, again, not trying to seem, like I don't care, but we don't have time for that. And people that have time to spend an hour on intro calls are people you probably shouldn't be spending your time with because they just have an abundance of time because they don't have an abundance of business. And you've got to understand that and see that. And so another thing you can do is you can use autoresponders to manage your communication, to let people know you're only checking email twice a day, let them know you're on vacation, to let them know some other status of something that you have. That's one thing you can do. Another thing that you need to do is delegate and automate as much as you can. So offload those low value tasks. Some of our coaches are really, really good at this. I'm not the best at this, but somebody does edit my podcast. I don't do that. Somebody does the transcript and all those kind of things. I don't do that. I should be out there coaching people or creating podcasts, not sitting in an editing booth editing them. And so those are little things that you can just take off your plate. But there's other tasks. And I've had clients that are bogged down with personal things, whether it's errands, taking stuff to the dry cleaner. Had a client a while back that needed some photos for his insurance. He needed of their building. He needed photos of the locks and the doors and the outside and all these things. And he was going to drive an hour to the building and take photos and drive an hour home. He's also in DC. So that 2 hours could turn into 4 with traffic. And I'm like, dude, just have your kid do it. Buy him a pizza, fill a tank of gas. Don't go do that task, right? So delegate things where you can. Maybe it's virtual assistants, maybe it's an actual assistant. Delegate where you can to buy back time, and then do your best to automate that stuff by leveraging different technologies. If you have a repetitive process, learn how to automate it, whether it's invoicing or maybe it's some project management thing. Maybe it's, something else in your business where that you can automate, or how like leads go in your CRM, or whatever it is. How can you use AI to make it faster? Those kind of things. Delegate and automate where you can. The next thing here I think is really, really important, might be one of the most important things, is to set work hours and stick to them. Does that mean you can't break those from time to time? No. You can break it. If you own the business or you're a sales executive, you're going to bend the rules here and there. But the norm should not be that you're breaking the rules. You should not, on a regular basis, be taking work calls at 9 o'clock at night. Shouldn't be happening. You should not be taking work calls at 9 o'clock at night every night. You should not be checking your email and responding to it at 7:30, 9:30, 10:30, 11:30, 4 a.m. You shouldn't be doing that. You should have set work hours where 90 to 95% of your stuff gets done in those work hours. And then you check out and you go enjoy life. You go learn to play guitar, ride a horse, go out to dinner, take your kid to a movie, whatever it is, right? You should be able to check out and actually enjoy some downtime, because growth requires sustainability and a freshness of your mind. And you don't get that when you're just burning and churning all the time. You don't get that. So you really need to focus on having some me time, if you will. So just because you can be available doesn't mean you should be available. And I would definitely argue that that's going to hurt in the long run. And then I just have a couple of more things for you here on this one. You need to master the power of no. Saying no to non-essential stuff that doesn't align with where you're going allows you to focus on the business stuff. And I will tell you, it's more productive if you work a 4 or 5 hour day that is solely focused on your strategic direction than for you to work an 8 hour day where half of it is your strategic direction and then the other half is non-essential stuff. Because the non-essential stuff is often things you don't care a lot about, you may not like, and it's a mental distraction. And as much as possible in your business, we need to eliminate those mental distractions so we can focus. And if I can work shorter hours, be super focused, and take my business to the next level, who wouldn't want that? Or have an 8 hour workday where all you're doing in the 8 hour workday is essential stuff. That's even better. But you've got to protect your time for strategic thinking and high value relationships and interactions. You've got to protect it so that you are not drugged down by garbage. And here's one that'll just kind of tie into this. Is I did another podcast recently about where you have to focus. And one of the things I was talking about in there was like the current political climate. So I'm recording this in March of 2025. It's going to come out in May-ish timeframe. And as I'm recording this, there are too many people in the market screaming that the sky is falling. The new administration is just wreaking havoc on the world. Well, guess what? Every administration wreaks some amount of havoc every time they come in. Every single time there's a new administration. You don't need to be spending a lot of time and energy focused on that. You need to spend your time and energy focused on how you're going to take your business to the next level. So don't spend your time on TikTok, on YouTube Shorts, on Instagram Reels, on Facebook, on X, or any of that stuff, just scrolling through people, hammering the president, hammering his administration, hammering all that stuff. It is an absolute waste of your time. All it's going to do is work you up in your gut, in your brain, in your chest. It's going to create anxiety. And all of that takes you away from the strategic thing you need to be focused on. So don't do that. Get away from that stuff. If you've got to delete the apps, delete the freaking apps. Whatever it is it takes so that you can focus on what you need instead of the little dopamine hit you get, which some of you do from stirring the pot and interacting in that stuff. You don't need that stuff. Go grow your company. That's way, 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 way more important. Last thing I'll tell you is if you are struggling to figure out where your time is going and why you don't have time for things, if you're one of those people like, I don't have time for it, conduct a time audit. Very simply, track where your time is going every week. And then you can eliminate or identify and eliminate the low value stuff. Typically what you do in a time audit is you get a piece of paper and every 15 minutes you write down what you did. So after you did it, 15 minutes, write down what you did. And you just keep doing that. And a lot of people say do the time audit for a whole week. You may find out everything you need to know in just 2 or 3 days. But a time audit is a really quick way for you to figure out, well, where is your time going? And be honest with yourself. You're the only one that's going to see it. In fact, if you're embarrassed about it, that's even better, because now you know where you need to get rid of stuff. Like, oh, from 8 to 8:30, I was having breakfast. From 8:30 to 9, I was checking email. But from 9 to 11, I got really distracted and played on Facebook. Why are you distracted? What's going on? Maybe you need some executive coaching on that. That's another topic for another day. A couple of final points here. Business growth requires focus. Focus requires boundaries. If you remember nothing else from today, remember that. Growth requires focus. Focus requires boundaries. And once you have those set, those boundaries can work for you. And most people will never have a problem with your boundary. If you have someone that has a problem with your boundary, the problem's not you, it's them. The problem's not you, it's them. People should not have a problem with you respecting your time and theirs, being honest with them. Because I had somebody the other day message me on LinkedIn and asked me, hey, can we talk to you about blah, 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 whatever it was. And I said, I just have zero interest in this topic. That might change in 6 months or a year. But right now, where I'm at in my life, in my business, I'm just not interested in that topic. So I don't think I'd make a good prospect for you. I'm just very honest with them. People respect that. Setting boundaries creates space for thinking and execution. At the end of the day, you've got to protect your time to execute. That's how you're going to grow your business. You're going to execute. If you want to learn more about executing and taking your business to the next level, I highly recommend you join our inner circle. We meet every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. We go over stuff like this, and then we get deep in the weeds on government contracting and very specifics of proposals and marketing and teaming and strategy and your messaging and all that kind of stuff. We get into it deep, and we even do tutorials sometimes and show people how to win stuff that way by literally clicking through the buttons and showing them. We have a great community of folks, and the camaraderie is really important for folks to be able to see what other folks are doing in the market. So that's really great. And then we have open Q&A and hot seats where you can come in and we can just talk to you about what's going on in your business. So there's a lot of value in joining our inner circle that meets every Wednesday at 1 o'clock Eastern. So if you have any more questions for me about this episode, feel free to reach out via email or via LinkedIn. I'd love to hear from you there. And thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.